Welcome back to the Buddhist Podcast. I'm Noah Cease, and today we're tackling anxiety. No, you can't get rid of anxiety forever and all time, but that's a good thing. We're going to talk about the benefits of anxiety, the drawbacks, and how you can control your anxiety to an appropriate level. Now, first and foremost, anxiety is really important. You don't want to have no anxiety. Anxiety is a threat detection center of the brain. It's what keeps us alive. It's what helps our ancestors stay alive instead of saying, what was that really horrific sound coming from that dark cave? I think I'll just wander in there and hope for the best. No, they said, I don't know what that is, but it's kind of making me freak out, and I'm going to run the opposite direction. Those were our ancestors that we came from because those are the ones that survived. We want to survive. So yes, anxiety does have a very important role to play in our lives, but oftentimes the wires get crossed and we have overactive anxiety that gets in the way of us just trying to do normal everyday things. So again, anxiety is our threat detection center. What we want to do is help that threat detection center operate the most appropriately that it can. We want to identify real threats from not so real threats so that we can do the tasks that we need to do throughout the day, throughout the week, and throughout our lives. For instance, everybody gets a little anxious when they're meeting new people or have to present something in public. Some people get anxious when they have to go to the store and there's a lot of people around. All of these things are understandable to a certain level, but when they take the best parts of you and limit you, that's a problem. So how do we recalibrate our threat detection center? One of the most immediate ways of doing that is by breathing. You may have seen my other short video on this. I'm going to do it again right now. It's just a double inhale with a long controlled exhale. That's it. You repeat that for 30 seconds to a minute and it resets your nervous system, allowing you to maintain your calm, cool composure in the midst of something anxiety provoking. Now, your anxiety is going to come back, so you just breathe some more, everything's going to be okay. What you're teaching yourself is that you can calm your internal state despite being in an external environment that may pose a potential threat. Again, as a threat detection center, we have to teach our mind, we have to update our threat detection to be more accurate to the society and the culture that we're a part of. There wasn't a whole lot to be anxious way back in the day. There was, a need to get away from very large predators. And that was pretty much it. But now our brain thinks that so many more things are threatening than they actually are. Like meeting new people, for instance, or giving a presentation. We're not in any harm's way. All we're really subjecting ourselves is to the perception of a threat, a perceived threat. And all a perception is a thought. And you can change your thoughts. So again, using those breathing techniques is a really great way to calm your central nervous system down when you're in a situation that provokes your anxiety. Again, that's more immediate and maybe not so good for the long term. So a better long-term solution is actually just meditation. Seated, quiet, by yourself, focusing only on your breath or some object external to yourself and pouring all of your attention and focus into that object. It just takes 5 minutes a day. That's it. It's going to feel like hours, I know. The important thing is when you do that meditation, your mind is going to wander. That's okay. It's not a big deal. All of our minds wander. What does matter is whether or not you're pulling your attention back to that one single thing. Again, whether that's an object outside of yourself or the breath within yourself. So just bring your attention back. Bring your focus back over and over and over. You're going to experience agitation while doing this. That agitation is good. That means you're doing the right thing. Essentially, what that process does is silences, or rather it slows down this superhighway between your amygdala and your sense of self. Your amygdala is the fear response center. So you want that highway quiet. You don't want it racing all the time. Everything's a threat, and you're freaking yourself out. No, we want it at a nice, slow pace so that when there is a real threat, you can respond appropriately to that and not overreact to something that is not a real threat. So we have an immediate short term with breathing technique. We have a medium and long-term solution with meditation. What else can we do? Well, anything that brings your attention into the physical reality of the moment is going to help. We call this mindfulness. You can use all of your senses, your sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch, just to bring your focus and attention into something tangible and something real. Again, all of your anxiety is your own perception of things. And as I said before, your perception is just a thought. Change your thoughts, change your perception, change your reality. It's that simple. I know these things are very hard because it takes a lot of practice and we're not used to doing them. But that doesn't make it difficult. Simple is not easy. These things are very simple. It doesn't make them easy. I get that. It takes practice over and over and over again. And then before you know it, things aren't so bad. Situations aren't so threatening. Wow, you walk out of a situation thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't freak out. How cool is that? And it is cool. It's so wonderful. Your brain is malleable. You get to have an impact on the way your brain functions. And that never ends. That never stops. Every single day, every single moment, you have an opportunity to say, hey, brain, why don't we do something a little different? Why don't we think about this a little differently? Why don't we change the thoughts we have about the environment a little bit at a time? And when you change your thoughts about the environment, when you put yourself into a tangible reality using your senses, that teaches the brain that the perception that you had about danger was wrong. You're actually safe because you cannot pay attention to your breathing. You can't pay attention to your touch or your smell or your taste or your sight if you are truly in a life-threatening situation. You're just going to be gone, out the door. Fight, flight, or freeze. That's exactly what that is. So by taking the time to be mindful and taking the time to breathe and taking the time to use your senses as soon as you notice the anxiety building, you are teaching your mind that reality is not the same as your perception. And that's what we want to do. We want to get in touch with reality and get out of this misperception storm cloud that's hanging around all day. The more you practice this, the more able you're going to get to a sense of peace and calm more and more quickly and in more domains. Anxiety generalizes. So when you get more brave in one area of your life and you face those anxieties and you calm yourself down, that has an impact across the board of everything that makes you anxious. So that's one of the most wonderful parts about working with anxiety. You don't have to tackle the biggest thing right away, but you do got to start tackling the little things a little bit every day. What else is there to say about anxiety? It's a threat detection center. You're trying to calm your senses. You're trying to reset your nervous system, and you're trying to change your perceptions to match the actual reality as opposed to just your worries about the reality. And that does bring us to one more thing I want to touch on in anxiety before we close. The only remedy to anxiety is security. That's it. The problem is everybody looks externally for security by avoiding the situation altogether or attempting to control the situation. But guess what? Neither of those works. Avoidance makes anxiety worse. And even if you can control some little part of your external world, there's so many things that are outside of your control that it is unbelievable. So think about anxiety in terms of an attempt to create security, but you need to make that security from inside yourself, not the external world. And you can do that. Again, how? Yes, breathing, mindfulness, and challenging those thoughts and challenging your perceptions. That's exactly how you create internal security. Because again, so few times in our life are we actually faced with a real life-threatening situation. Everything else is just a threat to our perception of ourself. Oh, that was a mouthful. I hope that made sense. Drop a comment below if you want any more information on anxiety, tools, ways to challenge your thoughts and perception, and let me know what you want to hear about. I'm always happy to talk about any mental health topics, and get into philosophy and religion and all that kind of stuff. So drop a comment below, and I would love to hear back from you as to what you want to hear about next.